This is Local 3 News at 5.
And it's a special edition of Local 3 News at 5. We want to thank you for watching our 2022 Hamilton County mayoral debate featuring Republican candidates Matt Hulliter, Sabrina Smedley, and Weston Wamp. I'm David Carroll with Dave Flessner of the Chattanooga Times Free Press. We'll begin with the rules of the debate. Each candidate will get 1 minute to make an opening statement. Dave and I will then alternate asking questions. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to answer, as well as an optional 30-second rebuttal if they request to do so.
When there are 15 seconds left, candidates will then be given a time cue to wrap up. And once time is expired, the moderator can allow a candidate to complete a sentence, but the candidate should not start a new thought. At the end of the program, each candidate will be given 60 seconds to make a closing statement. We'll begin with opening statements from each of our three candidates in a predetermined draw from the debate. Matt Hulliter, you're up for the first opening statement.
All right, Dave, thank you, and David, thank you, and Local 3 and the Times Free Press for having me here today. I've always been led by my faith and my family, and that's why this was an easy decision for me. I feel led to do this for Hamilton County, and I want to use my God-given talents to make things better. There are a lot of priorities that need addressed in Hamilton County, and I know how to build a team as a previous business owner. I know how to build a team and cast a vision and provide leadership to get those things done, and we do have a lot to do. I think the relationship with the county mayor, it's important to know the local, state, and federal folks, and I have a good relationship with them, and we'll use that on day one to help get things done. I've learned in my life, I've earned, and now it's my time to return. Thank you for having me.
Matt, thank you. Let's go to Sabrina Smedley. You have a minute for your opening statement.
Thank you, and thank you, David and Dave, for hosting this evening, giving us an opportunity, and thank you to everyone tuning in this afternoon. In going through this process, I've had folks say, I really think it's important that the next county mayor has a business background, while others have said, I think government experience is important. I have both. As a single mom, I've raised 3 kids. I've ran 2 successful small businesses and earned an MBA. On the local level, I led the fight to help stop forced annexation. And for the last 8 years, I've had the honor and the privilege to work alongside Mayor Jim Coppinger as we use conservative principles to achieve great things for Hamilton County, such as increased pay to our Hamilton County law enforcement officers. We've maintained a AAA bond rating, created over 11,000 jobs. We also supported funding for a veteran service office, and I am so excited to share my vision for Hamilton County this evening.
Sabrina, thank you very much. Now, Weston Wamp, you have a minute for your opening statement.
Thank you. It is tough to campaign, but I'll tell you, when you do it as a dad of 4, there's a lot of joy waiting for you at home when you get home at the end of a long day, and my 4 little ones are watching. So to River, Griffin, Aldridge, and Smith, I love you a lot more than this political stuff. Being a dad is the most defining part of my resume, but my experience has prepared me to do this job well. 6 years ago, I co-founded the largest startup investment fund in our community's history. I had the opportunity to go on from there and start with some of my heroes in the conservative movement, an organization to fight wasteful government spending, which is the root cause of inflation, and then to serve our state's 2-year colleges on the Board of Regents. All of us have experience. This is not a popularity contest. It's not about wealth. It's not about awards or titles. Ultimately, it's about the future of our community, the county that we all love. And I'd be honored to have your vote, and I look forward to what I hope is a substantive conversation, because you, the voters, are going to hire one of us, not for the last 10 years, but for the next 4. And I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you all for that. Our first question is, we'll go to Sabrina Smedley in this particular round. She'll go first. It's about a new Lookout Stadium, and the question basically surrounds the current support or lack of support for a stadium. Both our city mayor and county mayor have expressed their support for a new stadium, and there are proposals out there now in Hamilton County designed to spur some nearby development and get that stadium built, whether it be with taxpayer money, private money. Where do you stand? Would you support it? If so, how do you get it done? Sabrina, you get the first answer.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's too early in the game for me to say whether I support or do not support the stadium. The reason is I did have the opportunity a few weeks ago to fly out to South Carolina and look at a stadium there in Columbia. And I could see how that could be the hub for a community. However, I've not seen the plan. I don't know what all it entails. I think that the stadium's the catalyst, but I mean, is there retail involved, housing? What is the plan? I've not seen it all. And what would the ask be of the taxpayers? Is the city partnering on this? Is the state partnering on this? It would be very hard for me to go to the taxpayers of Hamilton County and ask them to shoulder the burden of such a stadium. And so I need more information before I could say yay or nay.
All right. Weston Wamp, your turn.
David, you and I have talked about this subject on Twitter, if no other place. I was one of the first people in our community to express skepticism a few years ago. The economics of minor league baseball stadiums are dubious, questionable at best. I think it's important for our community before we make a decision to understand that you don't have separate bond ratings. You don't get a bond rating for baseball stadiums and for schools. And so it does come down to a question of robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it's in a community where public education has been mediocre for a generation. We've proposed, possibly on the exact same site, that we bring Kirkman back, that we bring City High back, maybe that they're merged, and that there is, for the next generation, a world-class public middle school and high school that's got both a college track and a track that could take you into the trades, because for a generation, we really have a lost generation ever since Kirkman closed of tradespeople. And you pay the price if you hire a plumber for $100 an hour, and then just across the board our workforce is taking a hit. So I'm not closed-minded to it, but I prefer to build schools over stadiums with taxpayer dollars.
And Matt Hollander, where do you stand on the new stadium?
It's real simple. I want to see the financial impact. I'm not for or against it until I see what the plan is. I want to see a true master plan that's done by a well master planner that can put together what all will be included, retail, multifamily. I agree that not just a minor league stadium can survive on its own. And for something that will impact us like this, that property joins the Bend, and there's a lot going on down there. I can see a lot of opportunities with it, but before I would commit, I just want to look at dollars and cents and see what makes sense for the taxpayers of Hamilton County.
Thank you all.
Our next question goes to you first, Weston Wamp, and deals with county sewers. Parts of Hamilton County remain under a building moratorium because of our inadequate sewer system and sewer problems. EPA cited both the city and the county for that. We've been talking now for 2 years between the Hamilton County Water and Wastewater Treatment Authority and the city of Chattanooga whether it makes sense to combine into a countywide sewer system. First of all, do you support a merger of the city and county sewer systems? And secondly, do you think we need a new sewage treatment plant beyond Moccasin Bend? And if so, where should that be?
Yeah. Well, this is a question of stewardship. I mean, I think wastewater is a great example of how local government is where the rubber meets the road. This is the hard, difficult stuff. It's not fun. It is, no pun intended, pretty nasty. I live in a really unusual place as it relates to wastewater. I live in the city of Chattanooga, but I pay a WWTA bill. There are a few of us on the fringe of the city who do. I think it's an example of how confusing it's been. Of all strange outcomes, federal money, once in a generation, federal money caused by a pandemic is going to allow us to cover over a lack of stewardship in county government over the last several decades. It will allow for tanks to be built that, in all likelihood, as we update Moccasin Bend, it will be able to, at least for a period of time. It's more of a long-term Band-Aid than a permanent solution, but I do think it's probably going to be acceptable for us to send our wastewater for a period of time there. I'm only 35, and so I would like to see, over the next decade, us get serious again about a permanent solution for wastewater.
Matt Hollander, what's your solution to the county sewer problem?
It's a hard solution, but it's one we have to address. Our sewer system is broken and it needs a lot of work. In reference to the new wastewater treatment plant or sewer plant, County Commission voted for a tax increase to help fund that. It raised our millage rate to bring the money in, but that money's not been used to address the problem. So I would want to see a plan and then follow through with the plan, because if we're going to continue to create jobs here and workforce housing, and we've got industry that wants to come here, this is a problem. Knox County only has 15,000 more people than Hamilton County. They have 4 sewer treatment plants. We have one, and it's really old, and we're pumping it from northern end of the county down to Moccasin Bend through Highland Park, which is also 60 plus years old. So I think it's one of the biggest challenges that we have to face, because it includes everything in how to move this county forward.
Sabrina Smedley, what's the solution to our county?
We certainly couldn't have 4 wastewater treatment plants without increasing taxes, that's for sure. But we are dealing with 50 years of neglect. And the first part of your question was about consolidation. And I did support that. As a matter of fact, I was the chairman when that issue came before the county commission. And I did call for a study to be done to look at consolidating WWTA with the city of Chattanooga. And if it is more efficient, we should do that. Works are underway. That's transpiring right now from what I understand, and I hope it will be complete if it makes sense. But in terms of where the next wastewater treatment plant goes, we need to take our time as a community, and we need to locate the right location. Make sure it's not nestled in a bunch of residential homes. It's not located in a flood zone. And I'm so happy that the county commission just a few weeks ago voted to invest over $20 million in our wastewater. We have to continue to do that with this one-time money we have so we can get these moratoriums lifted across Hamilton County and grow in these other communities.
Thank you all. We have much more questions coming up. And for those of you who have been asking us to ask the candidates about schools, school facilities, we'll do that right after this break. Welcome back. We are talking to the 3 Republican candidates for Hamilton County Mayor, and we have a question about schools. It will go to Matt Hollander first. And the Hamilton County school system has identified more than $1 billion worth of school facility needs, including but not limited to a possible consolidation of several Hickson area schools. There are about 4 that may be consolidated in some form or another. Also, the replacement or repair of some old buildings like Normal Park, CSAS, Clifton Hills. There are some big challenges ahead in the coming years for Hamilton County Schools and our commission. So how do we address this challenge? Should we consolidate schools to help reduce the cost of operating so many? Matt?
Yeah, thanks, David. Our schools are in bad shape. I've been in several in the last 6 months, and I was really surprised. And we've got a lot of work to do. What I would like to do is, once again, have a plan. There's been a plan in place for years. It's just how do we follow the plan. And I'll tell you, recently, the quote that originally came in for the new Tyner Academy was over $75 million. And we choose these architects and kind of spread the love in the county. I want to go out and find who's the best architect that can help us build schools that are efficient, and then we don't have to pick a different architect next time. We can stick with that one and have a plan and stick to the plan. You know, we continue to talk about vocational schools, and I agree 100% with Weston. We need to bring back Kirkman, but we need to bring back even more schools. There's only 670 kids right now. Less than 1,000 out of 45,000 students are going to our vocational schools. We need more of them, and I want to look at areas like Greenville, South Carolina, maybe the private sector. There are other ways to achieve this and get a bond and build new schools where it doesn't cost extra taxpayers' money.
And just to follow up, make sure we're all answering the same question equally. When it comes to consolidating smaller schools into a large one, are you in favor of that trend?
You know, I recently talked to Reed Ingram, a friend of mine. He's a state senator down in Montgomery. They only have 5 high schools in that whole county. He said, Matt, we have better athletics, better engagement, less discipline problems, and that does make sense depending on the school. I would like to see not less elementary schools. I wish every child could walk to their elementary school, but when it comes to high schools, we also have to be careful. At Brainerd and a Howard, you have gang-related issues and turf war problems, and nobody wants to close their school, but I think it does make sense over time to have a plan. If we have 80 schools now, maybe we need 67 schools, but have a plan on how that can happen in the future.
All right, Sabrina Smedley, your
Thank you,
thoughts on that?
David. And I've been in our schools for over 8 years now. And let me tell you, I've already started with a plan. I have met with the superintendent on multiple occasions. He and I have already talked about the possibility of taking 2 of our schools that are grossly under capacity and repurposing those into 2 additional vocational trade schools, as well as consolidating some schools and how we're going to build schools into the future. I would encourage you all to check out my Ready for the Job policy plan that we just posted up this afternoon on our website, sabrinafrommayor.com, and also we'll be releasing that tomorrow. But I've already started the planning process for this, and I'm so proud to say that during my tenure on the County Commission, we have invested $278 million in capital when it comes to our schools.
All right, Weston Watt?
I think we've got an opportunity to rethink what schools look like in 2022. And I've played a role in that on the Board of Regents, had the idea for a school that would feed the logistics industry here, which is not only our legacy industry, but it's also our highest growth industry. That will start out at US Express. You'll end up at Chattanooga State. We're going to announce that in the middle of May. I think that's an exciting opportunity. School doesn't have to look like it used to. I mean, our STEM school at Chattanooga State's an example of that. We basically used auxiliary space less than 10 years ago, and it's now one of the highest performing public schools. Specifically, in terms of your question about consolidation, you got to be very careful about what the neighborhood impact is. Certainly in the far-flung and more rural parts of the county, you don't want kids getting on a bus for 30 minutes in the morning to get to their school. But I bet you there are some city high school graduates and central high graduates watching tonight who went to high school in a big high school, and it was run impeccably well. There are generations of people living today who went to one of those 2 high schools. One was a city high school, one was a county high school back then, and they ran exceptionally well despite being large.
All right.
Next question first goes to Sabrina Smedley. And Hamilton County spends nearly $11 million a year on its roads and highways. The county has many roads with potholes that obviously need repair. First of all, are we spending enough, or should we spend more, do you think, on our roads and highways? And then how do you prioritize where we spend our money, both to widen roads, improve roads, but just to simply fix potholes?
I love this question because I have a plan for this as well, and I think we actually spend about $16 million when it comes to maintaining our roads. I think overall in the county we do a pretty good job of maintaining our roads. We have jurisdiction over 800 miles, but what I want to do as the next county mayor is I want to do a true assessment of our roads. And if we have to go out there with a solar light and see, which roads need repaired immediately, and then come up with a plan to repair those roads in order of priority. The roads that need paved immediately, we would start with that and then have a plan to where we are paving all of our roads over a 5 or 10 year plan.
Are we spending enough?
Probably not, but are we ever spending enough? I mean, I think though overall we do a great job. When you drive on a county road compared to a city road, I think that we're doing a pretty good job.
Weston Wamp, what's the solution to our county roads?
Well, this is one of those areas where you get what you pay for, right? I mean, I don't think any of us know how to mix asphalt any better than the other ones. And so, in public education, there's massive opportunities for reform. Here, it's a question of whether you spend more money. I'd say the other part of this that doesn't get enough attention is that a lot of the roads that we need widened or repaired are state roads. And I'm the only one up here who's got a demonstrated working track record with this governor, with his team, and for that matter, with our state legislative delegation. I've had a working relationship with both of our state senators. We're uniquely positioned in Southeast Tennessee based on Chairman Hazelwood and Chairman Watson's roles within state government. And I do think the next county mayor needs to, day in, day out, make the case that particularly out east, in that corridor where there's been explosive growth, that the state will meet us in the middle and help us in terms of planning infrastructure for the future.
Matt Hollander, what do we do about county roads?
Yeah, our roads are in bad shape in a lot of places, and it's an important question. I want to look at our $850 million budget and assess where it's all going. And if we need to put more money in roads, where does that come from? You know, I think I recently met with Chattanooga Gas Company, and they explained a situation on one road where they had to put a gas line in, but they were only wanting to repave one half of the road, but the other half may need it too. And it's how do you bring the right people together to help make a decision about who's going to pay for it. In that situation, maybe it should be shared. And I tell you, Ben Wilson, who led our highway department, did a great job and recently retired. Right now, Gene Quinn is the interim, and Gene's unfortunately going to leave in September. I've already started talking to candidates. I think I met a guy Saturday that may be perfect for this position, and I want to make sure that we have the right team. None of us as mayor are going to go pave that road, but if we have the right team and the right leadership at the highway department to make those decisions and come to us with the budgets that needed to make the roads better, that's what I want to do, is work with them.
And I believe we have a rebuttal. Sabrina, you have
I was
something?
just going to say real quick that I also have developed a great relationship with our state representatives and with TDOT, because I represent the fastest growing district in Hamilton County. Two main state routes, East Brenner Road and Ottawa Ringo Road. Those are roads I have advocated for much needed improved infrastructure on.
Anybody else? You're all good? We'll take a little break. We're coming back to talk about industrial recruitment and growth for Hamilton County right after this. If you're just getting home and turning on Channel 3 to see the news, well, you're seeing a different type of news today. We have the 3 Republican candidates for Hamilton County Mayor, and we're asking questions to each. This particular one will go to Weston Wamp first. It is about business recruitment. And I want to know your approach to growing the community and recruiting more businesses and residents to Hamilton County. Is Hamilton County growing too fast? Is it growing too slowly? Weston, what do you say?
I think growth here, if you compare it to cities in the region, is healthy. What we need to be honest about in terms of developing our economy is that when you have a community with the rich history and natural beauty of Southeast Tennessee, we're going to sell ourselves as long as our workforce is high quality and your workforce is a direct reflection of public education. Politicians often act like these are all different disciplines: economic development, workforce development, and education, and even crime. I'll argue they're all completely interwoven. And if I'm county mayor, I think the highest and best use of that leadership position in our community would be to refocus public education, which is 64% of the budget, not on sending everybody to college, because that's not everybody's area of giftedness. We're not all made the same way. That obsession with a four-year degree has caused us to under-prepare our workforce. And if we'll commit to preparing productive citizens who are ready to go to work, that's how you'll see a blossoming economy in the years to come.
Matt Hollander, your turn.
You know, workforce development is really important. Are we growing at the pace we should? We have the ability to. We have all the resources here. We have the fastest internet. People want to be in Hamilton County, but no, we're not. When I meet with small businesses and big businesses, it is an issue. We're not developing the workforce in Hamilton County. When I meet with the McKee Bakery and they say we're going to Bradley County to get our employees, we have a problem there. So how do we set up apprenticeship programs? Go to McKee, go to Ooltewah High School, say let's figure out how to develop this at Ooltewah, and then you go work for McKee. I also think there's a big opportunity here with what we have at McDonald Farm, and there's more land still to be developed at Enterprise South, the business park off Amnicola. You've got the Bend going up downtown. We have the ability to attract those businesses, but we need to protect our culture, and we can be picky about it too. But I'll say last, none of this will work if we don't fix our infrastructure.
All right, Sabrina?
In terms of growth, I want to plan for responsible growth. But when you think about workforce development, I've gone around and met through key business leaders throughout Hamilton County that employ the majority of our employees, and they all share that they're facing the same challenge, and that's attracting and retaining talent. There's so much opportunity though. We have so many things already in place with our co-ops, our internships, our apprenticeships, our work-based learning programs like our Future Ready Institutes. We can expand what we already have and connect more students with employers, but I also want to come up with a task force made up of key business leaders here in town. We've got talent here. We can fix this problem here at home. We don't have to travel out to talk to other mayors or peer groups. We have talent right here. I want to put together a task force that's dedicated to attracting talent, developing that talent, and offering a robust talent pipeline to our employers here in Hamilton County.
Next question goes to Matt Hollander first. Each of you has pledged your support for small government and keeping taxes as low as possible. Are there any county programs now that you think we could scale back or even eliminate in order to save money? And conversely, are there county programs you think need significantly more funding?
Well, we want to make sure we address all the issues we're talking about today, and are they adequately funded? The first thing I want to do is sit down, and if I'm fortunate enough to get past this primary, I'm going to spend the summer months and look at each line item on that budget to make sure that we're spending it in the most effective manner. So I think that's one of the first jobs the mayor needs to do. We're the fiscal agent for the entire county, and it's a big budget. I'm used to looking at budgets. I know how to find where there may be some areas that we can improve on the budget. I'm not going to specifically say we're going to cut any now, but I do want to take a good hard look at all of them.
Sabrina,
We have
are there programs we could cut?
Well, we have an $835 million budget. What I've proposed and part of my plan is to do a true assessment of government. What are we doing right? Are there duplicated services that can be consolidated? Are there things that can be done more efficiently? And I've committed my first 90 days in office to really taking a dive and doing an assessment from the bottom up and top down of county government. And if there's any changes that need to be made, I will be doing those to make sure we're doing things as efficiently as possible and looking out for every taxpayer dollar out there.
Weston?
County government doesn't have all the bells and whistles that city government does. And so folks may not realize, as large as this budget is, and it's a good bit larger than the city of Chattanooga's budget, It's more simple, and a whole lot of the money is allocated in areas where you wouldn't dare cut, whether it's the health department or judicial system. And so it's very hard on the front end to identify areas where you'd cut. In terms of where in a growing county with a growing tax base, where would you invest money? The word apprenticeship has been mentioned here twice. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, so I'll take it as a compliment. But at the very beginning of this campaign, we laid out a very specific set of proposals. We call it our Hamilton First Agenda. And the second of our proposals is a mayor's apprenticeship initiative, where, inspired by a program that some of my close friends started, that gives East Ridge High School and Brainerd High School students the opportunity to work for pay, $15 an hour, while they're finishing their diploma. I think we can do that at scale. I've talked to dozens of employers across the county about participating, and I think it would be transformative, particularly in our most economically disadvantaged communities.
We have reached halftime of this 1 hour debate. We don't have any marching bands, but we may take a little snack break here. We're coming back in a couple of minutes with some more hot topics with the mayoral candidates on the Republican ballot right after this. Welcome back to the second half of our mayoral debate, featuring the three Republican candidates for county mayor, Matt Hollander, Sabrina Smedley, and Weston Wamp. Sabrina, you get this one first, and it deals with diversity here in Hamilton County, especially in the government. Only one of our 29 countywide elected officials is black. Most of the top managers in county government are white and male. Let's talk about diversity and representing what our citizenship really looks like. What can you do to help ensure a more diverse staff when we look at the courthouse?
Well, I think that Hamilton County is inclusive. My experience, even as a single mom, when I was starting my business, going and looking for resources to start that business, you know, we could probably do a better job of having resources available, because I know when I was a single mom doing that, there wasn't resources, and they told me that there weren't any. So I think that we can do a better job in just connecting the individuals with resources that are out there and make sure that the resources are available. But like I tell everyone, when it comes to diversity, I'm for everyone. I am of the belief that God created us all equal, and we should treat each other as we are all equal. And when our society gets back to that, a lot of our problems will fix themselves.
Weston?
There are a lot of disjointed realities of county government. You spoke to one of them. I think that one's probably more political than it is about race, because most of those county positions, or all of those county positions you would have referenced in terms of the county-wide ones, are partisan positions held by Republicans today. When I think about the team that I'd like to build, I want them to be representative of our community. I think often, even though county general government is the only taxing authority as it relates to public education, and so much of county government is public education, we ought to think about and be aware of the reality that we have a majority minority public school system. That's pretty incredible. It's also a tragedy for entrepreneurship and for our workforce and for economic opportunities that when I talk about, and you can see the passion I have for vocational education and career and technical education, those opportunities are the fewest and furthest between for people of color, despite the fact that they're the majority of our public school system. And I talk about the closure of Kirkman, the need to bring it back, but it applies whether it's dual enrollment opportunities at our technical college by Chattanooga State. We've got to open up opportunities for people of color to get themselves into a career path that's going to lead to a great career.
And Matt Hollander.
Thanks, Dave. You know, in my business, I never looked at race or gender. We had folks from all walks of life, but what we did do is we looked for the best person for the job. And we have incredible talent here in Hamilton County, so instead of looking at race or gender, let's find the best talent that can get the job done, because that'll be my responsibility as mayor, is to get the job done. And you know, Martin Luther King said, I dream of the day when people are not judged by the color of their skin, but by their character. So let's find good people, no matter what race or color they are. When I had my business, some of our best installers were females. But who do we need to get that can get the job done? And that's who I want to recruit.
This next question is the Weston First, deals with housing. Housing and rental rates in Hamilton County rose at double-digit rates last year. What is the county's role, if anything, in promoting affordable housing, particularly for working and low-income families?
This is the first county mayor's race in a generation, and it's really an important time, a significant time. I think we're in the middle of an inflection point. So much of the new residential development in the county is not in one of the municipalities, it's in the county. And slow growth, iterative growth over the last few decades has meant that the county and the Planning Commission and the RPA can handle it. I think we have to begin to think very differently about how we plan for the future, because so much of the housing boom are in these parts of these corridors of the county that haven't seen that type of development. I think it also calls the county mayor into an aggressive and proactive role about affordable housing. And this is another one of those areas where local government is where you just have to make tough decisions. You have to explain to people the pros and cons and the trade-offs, for example, of density. Where density is appropriate, we should pursue it so that families like mine can afford a place to live, a place to call home. It's going to get increasingly difficult, made worse by rising interest rates, but I do think it's part of the county mayor's job more than it ever has been moving forward.
Matt Hollander, how do we provide affordable housing in Hamilton County?
It's an issue for sure. We need affordable housing, especially for a certain sector of our workforce, and there are areas where we need to create density. And I think there's a way for the county mayor to work with the city mayor to find areas for additional density and multifamily. But I also think there's a proper way to do it. And I do think when it comes to working with the planning agency, actually the regional planning agency are city employees, and then the county reimburses them for a portion of their salary. I want to take a good hard look at that relationship that we have with RPA. And then I want to bring in our county employees and folks from our building department and Todd Lehman to talk together about how we can address it as one and work together to help our affordable housing issues in Hamilton County.
Sabrina Smedley?
Yes, thank you for this question, because the need for housing is very evident if you're out there in the market, especially like I am, working with first-time home buyers every day. And so this will be a challenge for the next mayor. Again, we have to invest in wastewater. Where these moratoriums are in areas like Hunter Road on Ottawa or Signal Mountain, we have to invest down. We have to invest down while we have this one-time money through the COVID relief fund, $70 million. The majority of that is going to have to be invested in wastewater so that we can grow. I also think that there's opportunities when a developer, and this is where you could partner with the city, when a developer is willing to go into a blighted area and take on significant risk. There are opportunities to incentivize individuals when they are taking on significant risks and going into a blighted area just for the sole purpose of providing affordable housing. We have to keep looking for those types of opportunities.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, COVID may not be over. We're going to talk about mask mandates, business closings, what we've dealt with in the past, what we may have to deal with in the future, right after this. Welcome back to our debate with the Hamilton County Republican mayoral candidates. They've been kind enough to stand this entire hour while the moderators are seated. That was Dave Flessner's idea. Not really. During the height of the pandemic, County Mayor Jim Coppinger imposed mask mandates. There were some business closings, and he caught some flack. Sabrina, you get the first answer on this one. Explain, would you have done anything differently from what Mayor Coppinger did, and what steps would you take if our COVID numbers begin to rise again?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to be critical of Mayor Jim Coppinger because it's an awesome responsibility to try to protect 366,000 citizens. And it's easy to sit on the sidelines and be critical, but can you imagine the awesome responsibility of knowing that one wrong decision could cost thousands of lives? Now, I'm not for mandates, and one thing that COVID did show us is how precious our civil liberties are. And I had just purchased my second business, a fitness boutique, 3 months before COVID hit. I had 2 locations, and I could not open the door. And you cannot survive as a business if you can't be open and operate. And so I was very thankful that the governor gave authority to our county mayor to override our city mayor, and I was able to open my doors. But as mayor, I will never tell a business owner that you cannot go to work. I will never tell an employee you can't go to work and make a living for your family. Never.
Weston Watt?
It's not helpful to go back and second guess decisions that were made, and Mayor Coppinger has served really well during the pandemic and before the pandemic. 2 things that I think we can learn that are really important. One is that there aren't essential jobs and non-essential jobs. Every job is totally essential to the people who work those jobs. And it was a fool's errand for then City Mayor Andy Burke to have tried to define some as essential and some as non-essential, and it was fortunate the governor and the state legislature sent the power to make those tough decisions down to the county mayor. Second is we should learn from this that there are massive consequences to masking young children. I am not an epidemiologist, I'm not an expert in a lot of these subjects, but I am a father of children whose earliest educational experiences were negatively impacted by masks. I was at a big middle school. The principals asked all the students to take masks off. About 10-15% still had their masks on. I asked why, and she said, our shyest students are still wearing the mask because it serves as a barrier between them and their peers. So we should never do that again.
All right, and Matt Hollander.
Yeah, I agree. Look, if it happened from 6:45 back, we can't do anything about it, and hopefully this will not happen in the future. But if it does, I believe in the Constitution of the United States, and our 13th and 14th Amendment spell it out for us. I am against mandates for that reason, and it's a personal decision for individuals and families to make. For our schools, when I had lunch with Justin Robertson, this is back maybe late January, there were a couple of schools that were closed, and I asked, and it was actually so many teachers had Omicron at the time. That's why the school was out, not because of the mandates or the children. So it'll be up to our educational leaders to do what's best because we entrusted them with the safety of our students. And then for business owners, it's up to that business owner. When I had my business, one of our core values was change and adapt. Within 24 hours, we were doing virtual presentations. We were working more outside and did what we needed to do to take care of our employees.
Okay.
The last 3 Hamilton County mayors have served 16, 17, and 11 years. With term limits an issue in many recent elections, are you ready to tell us today how many terms you would be willing to serve if you're elected this year? We'll begin with Sabrina Smedley.
I would be willing to serve 2 terms because I have so much vision for Hamilton County when it comes to education, public safety, infrastructure, workforce development. I think that over 4 years that we'll have everything on the right path, but I would see me probably serving at least 2 terms. I would not say anything beyond that.
Would you rule it out?
I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, 2 terms for sure. I do think I served 2 terms on the county commission, and I'm glad that I'm getting an opportunity to run for county mayor instead of running for a 3rd term. But for sure, I think 8 years. When you think about a capital plan to address our school facilities, that $1.4 billion price tag we were just talking about, I see that being a 10 to 15 year plan. And in order to really get everything rolled out as we should, I think it would at least take 8 years.
Weston, how many terms would you envision serving if you're elected?
Well, I hope to serve 1. And if I serve 1 and do a good job and we've not completed the mission at hand, which again, we've laid out. I think the reason that Shelby and I decided to introduce term limits into county politics, I don't remember in my lifetime or childhood around county politics had ever heard anybody talk about the subject. It actually emanated from a personal decision Shelby and I made about our family and where we were headed, and that we really wanted the accountability with voters. We knew we were going to lay out a very specific platform called Hamilton First. It's a series of proposals that are on our website, and we think they all can be done in 8 years. And it's the George Washington principle. You know, if George Washington sensed that there was virtue in an executive stepping aside in 8 years and letting somebody else serve, it ought to apply here. It applies to city government. It applies to our governor. I'm watching my friend Bill Lee wrap up his first term. He's got promises he made and goals that he set out as he was a candidate, and I think he wants to go and finish strong, and that's the accountability that he has with voters in his second term, if he's given it.
Matt Hollander, should there be term limits, and how long would you serve?
Yeah, so if I would love to be your mayor and have the first term. And if I do a great job in making a big difference for Hamilton County and the voters see necessary, I would love to run a second term. I'll go on the record by saying I will absolutely not serve for more than 8 years. I'm in a position where I'm doing this because I want to give back to this community. And I agree, a lot of times government needs to run at the speed of business, and we can get a lot of things done in 4 years, but some of our issues with infrastructure and our school facilities are going to take longer, and so I'll go on the record no more than 8 years and potentially 2 terms.
And Sabrina, you had a rebuttal?
Yeah, I was just going to make note that, you know, so often people make promises. I believe in promising less and deliver more, but so often we've heard politicians say, I believe in term limits, I believe in term limits, and then they continue serving. So I'm of the belief of promise less, deliver more, and I believe I'll do so good in 4 years, so won't me a second term.
And just to be clear as we go to break, I believe I heard you say definitely no more than 2 terms, Matt Hollander.
Yeah.
You're saying possibly more than 2 terms.
No, I'm saying 2 terms.
2
for
terms,
sure.
no more than
Yeah.
2 terms.
Yeah.
And Weston Watt?
1 term, and if Ms. Shelby signs up for a second term, we'll do no more than 2 terms.
All right. Wanted to make sure that's on the record and clear. Who knows? This could come back in a few years and be a news story. We'll be back with more right after this.
Welcome back. For this one, we'll just have a brief response, but We're seeing political ads bringing President Biden into the county mayor's race. Do you believe President Biden won the 2020 election fair and square? And if not, can you explain why? We'll begin with you, Weston.
Yeah, that's a loaded question in 2022. I have the utmost confidence that this election in early voting and on May 3rd is going to be carried out by our neighbors and by trusted civil servants here at a local level. And I think that based on the research I've done, while you've got some things that may look unusual here or there, not the type of fraud that would have changed the outcome of the presidential election.
Matt Hollander, did President Biden win the election?
You know, I agree with Weston. I think all I care about is my mayor's race, and on May the 3rd, I know our election commission last race was done by 11 o'clock, and I believe it was fair, I believe it was honest, and I believe it was accurate in Hamilton County.
Sabrina Smedley?
I've heard Biden's name brought up twice now by one of the mayoral candidates, and I am just shocked that Biden's name would even come up in the first place in a county-wide election. I'm still scratching my head. I do think in some areas across the United States we should question the integrity of the election.
Any rebuttal from anyone?
Yeah, I'll just say I do not want Hamilton County to turn into what Washington is right now, and I think it's broken, and I think Biden's a part of the problem, and I won't allow that if I'm mayor of Hamilton County.
All right, that brings us to our closing statement. We give each of you a minute to give your final word to our viewers. And in the predetermined drawing we had prior to the debate, Weston Wamp, you get the chance to go first.
There's this old business saying that I think really speaks to this job and this race, and it's that management is doing things right, but leadership is doing the right thing. And what the next mayor is going to have an opportunity to do is set priorities, make decisions, set a vision for the future of this county. I think the most important thing the next county mayor ought to admit and then go to work trying to fix is that a lot of our neighbors are being left behind, young and old, kids stuck in bad schools, elderly dealing with once in a generation inflation. I want to use everything in me, all my experience, all my passion to go and serve this county moving forward. I'll make these 3 guarantees if you'll give me the honor of serving as county mayor. I'll always shoot you straight, and I'll try to admit when I'm wrong. I'll serve for only 8 years. It's been a big part of our campaign from the beginning, but I'll serve those 8 years with a ton of intensity. And then lastly, I'll never let a student in this county go without the option to get themselves trained up in vocational education. Public education will never be the same again if I'm the county mayor, and I think everything will be better for it.
Thank you. Matt Hollander.
Thanks again for having us today. Hamilton County is ready for a new chapter this fall, and it is time to do what needs done to move this county forward. But we must address a lot of issues, including our sewer system and safety and how economic growth occurs and cleaning up our ditches. I know I ran an ad about it and I hear it every day. We got to clean the city up. And we can do a better job with our funds to address all those issues. I've been a business owner, I've been a leader. I can create a culture where the employees of Hamilton County love to come to work and we give back to the customer, you the taxpayer. And I would love your vote on May the 3rd or Wednesday if you want to go early vote.
All right, and Sabrina.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this debate this evening. I'm running because I want to serve Hamilton County. I don't want to make Hamilton County government the family business. This is such an important election. After this election, we will have a new county mayor, a new sheriff. We have a city mayor who's still fairly new, a new chief of police, a new school superintendent. We're guaranteed to get 6 new county commissioners, 3 new school board members. I'm the only one ready to go in day one and do the job and bring stability to county government at a time it's going to need it. I've been endorsed by our law enforcement officers, our firefighters, teachers union, because they know my 8-year track record of doing what's right, putting public safety first, supporting our teachers, supporting public education. I would be honored and humbled to have your vote, and I would ask for you to please go out and early vote April 13th or 28th, and please vote on the primary day, May 3rd. Thank you so much.
Thank our candidates for being here. Dave Flessner, thank you for being here, as well as our partners at the Times Free Press. And as they have mentioned, the early voting starts this Wednesday. The election is May 3rd. The winner from this race will face Democratic candidate Matt Adams in the August general election. Hopefully we can have the winner from this group in another debate before the year is over. You can watch the full debate on our website, local3news.com. And Local 3 News at 6 with Cindy Sexton is coming up after this.